This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. It is January 6th, and on this day across the sports history spectrum, we had a triumphant return, a disastrous golf hole for one of the all-time greats, and the biggest comeback in a BCS Championship game. Plus, the world was introduced to the first episode of the Nancy Kerrigan-Tanya Harding soap opera and a non-sports fun fact about gangsters, guns, and golf. A jam-packed episode is coming your way right after this. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for everybody. And I'm not just saying that. I'm an actual customer. I've been buying Sterling soap for over a year now, sampling different products and scents along the way, and I have not come across a single scent that I don't like yet. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. So let's start with what happened on this day in 1950 when Ben Hogan made his return to the PGA Tour 11 months after his near-fatal car crash. On February 2nd, 1949, Hogan and his wife Valerie were traveling home to Texas after a West Coast swing of tournaments. The day before, he'd finished second to Jimmy Demaret at the Phoenix Open, losing in a playoff. The following morning was foggy. A Greyhound bus driven by a man fearful he'd lose his job if he was late to his next stop was attempting to pass a tractor-trailer on a bridge, not able to see much in front of him or whether traffic was coming his way or not. Well, there was. Hogan veered his new Cadillac as far right as he possibly could, but he could not avoid the bus traveling 50 miles per hour. If not for his effort to swing himself into the passenger seat in front of his wife to save her, the steering wheel column would most certainly have killed him. He spent 57 days in an El Paso hospital. Once he was released and returned home, he steadily began to rehab his injuries. By May, he was able to walk 3 holes, but he was still unable to swing a golf club. He worried that his broken collarbone that did not set properly would affect his golf swing. In September, he captained the Ryder Cup team to a win. It was not until December 10, 1949, that Hogan was able to play a full 18 holes. Afterward, he did not reveal to an anxious press corps what he had shot, just saying, "I did not hit them very well." So it is truly amazing that less than a month later, he teed it up at the Los Angeles Open at Riviera Country Club on this day in 1950. Fan interest was incredibly high, with a reported record gallery of 9,000 following Hogan around the course. Even more amazingly, Hogan shot a 2-over-73 on this day in his first round back and nearly won the tournament 3 days later, losing in a playoff to Sam Snead. From triumph to a tragedy of sorts on the golf course on this day in 1961 when Arnold Palmer recorded his worst ever score on a hole during competition. This was also the Los Angeles Open, and he was playing the 9th hole of the Rancho Park golf course. Arnie smoked his drive right down the middle, but his next 2 swings resulted in golf balls slicing onto the driving range out of bounds. He overcompensated with his next 2 and hooked those over the road on the left. His 10th shot finally found the green, and it took 2 putts to get home for a 12. Palmer, who always seemed to be in good spirits no matter the circumstance, later said, "I had to make a tough putt just to get my 12. Members erected a plaque soon after to commemorate the event. We're still a couple of days away from the semifinal games of the college football playoff, but let's go back to what happened on this day in 2014 in the national championship game. This edition featured top-ranked Florida State and number 2 Auburn in Pasadena, with the Seminoles favored by 8.5 at kickoff, but it was Auburn that got off to a better start. When quarterback Nick Marshall scored with 5:01 to play in the first half, Auburn had an 18-point lead, 21-3. A Devontae Freeman touchdown before the half narrowed that margin to 11 as the teams went to the locker room. The Noles were able to narrow the lead to 1 in the third quarter before an Auburn field goal pushed the margin back to 4. And that's when Kermit Whitfield kicked it into overdrive.
Whitfield's coming out. Great return man. 30, 40, daylight. Green ahead. Got it. Headed for the end zone. Touchdown, Florida State. A 100-yard return. And Auburn is stung by its own medicine.
That gave the Seminoles their first lead since a 3-0 advantage back in the first quarter. Auburn did not go away, though. They came right back with a score of their own.
Mason steps outside right, breaks to daylight. Still going. End zone. Touchdown, Auburn. Not quite yet out of miracles.
Trey Mason's 37-yard touchdown run and the PAT gave the Tigers a 4-point lead again with 1:19 left. So the Noles needed to go 80 yards for a touchdown, and time was tight. Jameis Winston, the newly crowned Heisman Trophy winner, completed 5 passes, including a 49-yard hookup with Rashad Green on that drive. With 17 seconds left, the Seminoles were knocking on the door.
From the 2-yard line with a timeout, you wonder if Jimbo would go ahead and run it. He's put Winston up under center. No, throw it. End zone, jump ball, touchdown! You know who he went for, number 1, Kelvin Benjamin.
The Seminoles won the national championship 34-31, and the 18-point deficit is the largest margin overcome in a national title game. The Seminoles wrapped up a perfect 13-0 season with the victory. This was also the last time that the top 2 teams would automatically qualify for the title game. It became a 4-team playoff the following year. On this day in 2018, Tennessee Titans quarterback Marcus Mariotta became just the second quarterback in NFL history to throw a touchdown pass to himself.
Mariotta to the line of scrimmage, maybe across the line. It deflects back to him for a touchdown for the moment. But was he across the line of scrimmage?
He was not across the line of scrimmage. It was a legal pass and a legal catch. And then he dove into the end zone. His touchdown helped the Titans beat Kansas City 22-21. Now, lots of quarterbacks have caught touchdown passes, but only one other QB has actually caught his own pass for a touchdown, and that was Brad Johnson, who was playing for Minnesota back in 1997, when his pass against the Carolina Panthers was deflected, and he ran it in for the decisive score in a 21-14 win for the Vikes. Now, Buffalo's Josh Allen scored on a pass he originally threw in a game in 2024, but his completed pass was lateraled back to him. A little bit different, though still pretty cool. On this day in 1994, Nancy Kerrigan was assaulted as she was leaving the ice at Cobo Arena in Detroit, setting off one of the most bizarre stories in sports history. Kerrigan had just finished practicing her routine for the upcoming U.S. Championships. As she walked past a curtain and down a tunnel toward the changing room, people soon heard her screaming in pain and shock.
What happened? Why?
It wasn't known at the time, but Kerrigan's assailant was Shane Stant, and he had waited for a film crew to stop filming and then snuck past the curtain, hit Kerrigan with a 21-inch collapsible baton on her right knee, and then crashed through a locked glass door and jumped into the getaway car, driven by Derek Smith.
All they know is a tall white guy with a leather jacket on.
Now, it did not take very long to find the answer to Kerrigan's question of why, but it took about 2 months to unravel the entire mystery. The why boiled down to the U.S. Women's Figure Skating Championships being a day away, and the attack was to eliminate Kerrigan from the competition and clear a path for Tanya Harding to win the title. Kerrigan suffered a severely bruised knee and a torn tendon from the attack, which kept her from competing. But according to an interview done with Stant 20 years later, there was a discussion about doing something even worse, like slicing her Achilles tendon. an injury that would have surely ended her career. Harding won gold the following night and qualified for the Winter Olympics to be held in Norway in February. 5 days after that, on January 12th, Sean Eckert, Harding's bodyguard, confessed that he was involved in the planning of the attack with Harding's ex-husband, Jeff Gillooly. On January 27th, Gillooly confessed to being the mastermind of the attack, but also implicated Tanya in the planning. He surrendered to the FBI 4 days later. Tanya proclaimed no knowledge of the attack, but garbage found outside her house included notes of Kerrigan's practice schedule in Tanya's handwriting. Despite all of that coming to light, the U.S. Olympic Committee allowed Harding to compete in the Olympics. She ended up finishing 8th in Lillehammer after the infamous shoelace incident during her free skate. Kerrigan took silver in the competition, finishing 2nd to Ukraine's Oksana Bayul. Finally, on March 16th, Tanya pled guilty to conspiracy to hinder prosecution, but still claimed and still contends to this day that she did not have any prior knowledge of the attack. She was stripped of the U.S. Championship gold medal that she won and banned for life from competitive skating for what happened on this day in 1994. On this day in 1951, it was the longest game in NBA history. This was a game between the Indianapolis Olympians and the Rochester Royals. These two got together in Rochester on this night, and after regulation, the game was tied at 65, and then proceeded to go into overtime after overtime after overtime. This was the pre-shot clock era, so with no incentive to shoot the basketball and a tight game, there was not a whole lot of offense in the overtimes. In 2 of the OT periods, neither team scored. In 2 others, just a pair of made baskets was exchanged. In the 4th OT, there was not even a shot taken. Wow, that was exciting. Finally, in the 6th overtime, the Royals' Arnie Rison missed a shot in the closing seconds. Indy's Paul Walter grabbed the rebound and launched a full-court pass to a streaking Ralph Beard, who thankfully laid it in with a second to play to win it for the Olympians. The final score after 6 overtimes? 75-73. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Al Capone once accidentally shot himself while playing golf. In 1928, Capone was playing a round of golf at Burnham Woods outside of Chicago with his pals Johnny Patton, Machine Gun Jack McGurn, and Fred the Killer Burke. Now, Capone loved to play golf, and he also loved having a great time on the course. There was lots of drinking and gambling amongst the group. Well, on this particular day, Capone was carrying his .45 caliber pistol in his pocket. When he reached in to grab a tee, the pistol fired a shot into his leg. He was taken to St. Margaret's Hospital under an alias so as not to raise any alarm or bring undue attention from the coppers. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.